Welcome everyone to the Pomino Show with my main man, my guest every week, the legend that is the Fazz dog. How are you doing, mate?
Good, man. Good. Back at work this week, so I'm actually doing something with myself, which is a big change of pace from the last 2 weeks.
Well, he might be devoid of energy because the young children of the area have sapped it out of him.
It's been a bit of a slog the last couple of days, but that we're here. I'm pumped, and it's going to be a good show,
mate. It's my favourite time of the week. Do you know what I mean? We usually banter on Twitter, but we get to do it in person. Good day to you, GTA, mate. How are you doing? And we got loads to cover this week because the AFL has decided to give us content, which is always nice. And we're talking today about AFL sackings, right? So obviously, Noble, I love the way the AFL word it as well. Mutually agreed to part ways.
Yeah, it's just like the Titanic mutually agreed to sink when it ran into the iceberg.
Do you know what I mean? Which basically means David Noble accepted $1 million to piss off. Yeah. And they get a new coach. But the question we're asking is, do we give coaches enough time? Or do they not get enough time? So over to you, audience, and over to you, Fazz. What do you think? Do you think the AFL give too much time or not enough?
Look, I had this conversation today, actually, and I was thinking about it, and I think it has to be judged a case by case, personally. But you know, it's a results-based business. You're not getting the results, you're gone. You and I, we obviously come from our round ball background where, I think Watford had 4 coaches in one season, didn't they? So, I'm used to it. But I think a few points that need to be taken. No other really sport in the world has list rebuilds like the AFL. I mean, they're slow. The expectations that a team is going to perform 2 years into a rebuild is just ridiculous. Having said that, I still don't think, if you know the bloke's not your man, he's not your man. Why wait? And I think most times that there's a bit of smoke, as in coaches coaching through his career and all that stuff. It's very hard to come back from that. I mean, Hardwick and Bomber Thompson are probably 2 who are recent ones who did survive that. But yeah, I mean, Noble lost me when things he said about his game plan. He had a game plan, but he didn't quite have the players to play his game plan. To me, I would have sacked him after that press conference, because a coach needs to cater their plan to the list, not the other way around. You need to have a plan that suits your players. You don't ask what do we always say, the round peg in a square hole. Like, you have to have the plan that caters for your list. So as soon as he said that to me, well, he's not the man, so.
I think it's an interesting one, as you all flutter in. But I think what is interesting about what you just said there is when you look at David Noble taking this job and you see he didn't have the players, that would have been all well and good, I think, if I would imagine that was discussed before they appointed him. So if he'd come in and said, look, I want to play this way, so I'm going to play this way, but the cattle isn't good enough, but it's going to be X, Y, Z. Surely then the list manager says, well, okay, cool. We're going to get rid of Aaron Hall. We're going to get rid of Zeeble. We're going to get rid of maybe Jed Anderson for some picks. And we'll focus this year on scouting talent to play your way next year. So we understand you can't play your brand. I thought that was weird because that's almost like he's got the job and said, oh, yeah, I can play football with these boys. And North have gone, oh, brilliant. Okay, cool. So we'll focus on getting the fresh talent in. You've got the cattle. I thought that was a bit mixed. And Gavin here, I think, has nailed it. And I think you're right. It's got to be a case-by-case basis. You look at Tottenham in the round ball. First game, they nearly beat City, didn't they? And you were like, oh, Jesus. Spurs look all right. And then after that, they were dog shit, weren't they? But they bit the bullet because Conte was there. And it was like a race between United and Spurs. who goes first. I personally think on the whole, though, AFL coaches get far too long. And
Oh,
I
mate.
think like
It's
Malthouse, Teague, Bolton.
it's something that and again, like I mentioned before off the top, we come from the round ball game, so we're used to it. It's something that the AFL needs to improve, mature on. The supporters, the coaches, the media needs to mature on. If a bloke's not your bloke, he's not your bloke. See you later. But I think that the one thing that I'll put in place, what you're talking about, when he comes in and talks about how, I can do this, I can play with these boys, whatever. One thing you'll see is a lot of assistant coaches. In fact, every assistant coach that gets appointed to a new job, they've come from a successful team, right? So what happens is they come from a Hawthorn who play a Hawthorn brand. Nobles come from Brisbane who play a Brisbane brand. And he's going to North Melbourne and say, hey, I've got the game plan. Let's play the Brisbane game plan. But that game plan was built for a team that's complete. So Brendan Bolton did it at Carlton. He came in and said, we got the Hawthorn game plan. I know how to do it. Let's do it. Mate, we had the worst ball users in the competition. You can't play a kick mark game plan with the worst ball users in the competition. So to me, there's too much of this, hey, he's at a good club. He must be a great coach. You need to start looking at maybe appointing coaches, assistant coaches from clubs that are around about their level. So I'd be looking at North Melbourne. I'd be saying, hey, look at Gold Coast. Let's appoint a coach that's around about team. Not look straight at Geelong or Richmond or Melbourne and say, hey, who's your assistant coach because we want to play like you. You don't have the list. So you need to get a coach who's going to cater the game plan for your list.
I did think North, and I'd love to know what the chat think and you. As Tim says here, I like this. I don't mind the Buckley idea. And what I was going with this is Carlton did it. North have done it. Need a rebuild. And gone with a coach that has never coached. Yep. And I would say that the rebuild has to be the hardest thing any AFL coach has to face. So I would be thinking, if I was North, I would have been looking at maybe someone like a Simpson, who it's rumoured they're going for now. Buckley would have been maybe a good choice because you look, he's gone through the interims with Collingwood. And I think part of McRae's success is built on the fact that Buckley had done a good chunk of the hard work. But to go with a guy that's the assistant, that's a tough job, isn't it?
100%. I think you look at it this way, and usually I do a bit of research, but I'm just throwing this question off the top of my hat. When was the last time a team did a rebuild with an experienced coach? As you were saying, every team that goes through, we're announcing a rebuild, we're going to get an inexperienced coach. It's never worked. So why do teams keep doing it? It's never, ever worked. So why are teams doing it?
Yeah, I think the only example would be Clarkson. But you look at Clarkson and you look at what he did in Tassie, he took a very shit side to the top. He worked briefly with Werribee in the VFL, who again had a horrible catchment and got them to be sustainable. But it's a tough thing. And it comes down to a lot of things, like Gav nails it here. A lot of that as well is on the recruitment. But for someone like Noble, he hasn't had a window. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, in our round ball, we just wait till January. You're the chairman. I ring you up and I go, Fazz, mate, some of these players are shit. Get your checkbook out, kid. But in AFL, you've got to wait a year. But I do think you can look at what the output was. And I looked at North, and at least under Bolton's Carlton, under Teague's Carlton, there was an element of fight and desire, and you could maybe say it's rubbish. I don't think, and this is controversial, North's list is as bad as people think.
Mate, it's not. It's not as bad as no list is as bad as what people think. And this, I will die on this hill. Every single footballer who gets drafted can play the game, right? We know that. And this drives me insane when people, I see comments, and I got an argument on Twitter, which is unlike me, about saying, what was David? He got nothing to work with. He had nothing to work with. Bullshit, he got nothing to work with. I'm sorry. He had probably the number 3 ruckman in the competition, if not the number 1 or 2 ruckman in the competition. He's playing him at full forward. He has Luke Davies-Uniacke, who finally played a game in the midfield, dominator. He's playing him on the wing. Like, don't sit there and tell me that they don't have talent on that list. They've got talent on the list. Just because he's a good bloke doesn't mean he's a good coach. And that's the thing that pisses me off to no end. Oh, poor David Noble. Mate, you're shit at your job. Go and get another job.
Mate, I'm with you. And I think Bolton's a good example. Clarkson has always said best assistant. You think the greatest double acts in the world, genuinely, you've got complement each other. So I look at my assistant manager at work. He is the opposite of me. He isn't funny. He takes everything serious. Like, he is literally the OCD POM. So he has to have everything done a certain way. I roll with the punches, but together, I'm more instinctive. He's more planning. It works beautifully. However, without being horrible to him, I don't think he could do the things I do yet. I think he could, but yet he's a little bit wet behind the ears. But this is a good point from Chris. Clarkson did get a bit of time, but this backs up what Fazz was saying, I think, that Clarkson went into that job saying, this is what we need to do. These are the players we need to get rid of. And they had one hell of a first draft, didn't they? Do you know what I mean? They targeted Hodge. They targeted the players that went in the Clarkson way. And I think the big thing with Noble is I don't think they knew what they fucking were doing.
Nah, I agree. The decision to appoint David Noble, I keep going to call him Mark Noble. The decision to appoint David Noble was a bizarre one at the time, and it remains to be a bizarre one now. I mean, I'm sure he is wonderful at his role, which was the back room, whatever it was at Brisbane. But the guy couldn't coach. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to bury the bloke. He can't coach. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, there's people who can't teach. I'm not going to bury them. But when people sit there and spout things off like this is the worst list of all time, no one would be able to coach this. It's just bullshit. It's not the worst list of all time. The bloke couldn't coach.
I've got to say that North team would dick Carlton 2015.
Oh, mate! When I saw a comment saying this is the worst list of all time, and mate, just look up Carlton 2015 and then talk about worst list of all time. Jesus.
My mate's a North fan. He said, "Oh, the list is in dire straits, though." And I was like, "Have a look at Aaron Mullet starting on the ball for Carlton. Come back to me, kid. Come back to me." But everyone in chat, who's your prediction? If you were the CEO there, who would you pick as your coach for North?
Geez, it's a good question. Clarkson's probably the obvious way to go, but
he's the first phone call, isn't he?
Oh, he has to be. Look, I think that they need to make a list, and whether you agree with it or not, I think very low down the list needs to be first-time coaches. Their first at least five people they give a call needs to be someone who's coached before. Has to be. You know, new coaches, first-time coaches. Look at McRae. I think McRae is a very good example. And all this bollocks about Collingwood not rebuild, blah, blah. Collingwood has still got the foundations of a very good list. A first-time coach can come in and add that cherry on top to make them a good list. But you need an experienced guy in there to fix North Melbourne. That's simple as that. You need an experienced person. Just like Carlton should have got an experienced person at the start of our rebuild. Maybe not as experienced as, there's experience and there's over the hill. But like a Mick Bolthouse. But yeah, I'm thinking Clarko. So someone said Don Pike before. Don Pike, he would be my second phone call. Clarko, Don Pike, because he did the same at Adelaide. I'd try get Mark Williams, Adam Simpson, if you could get him out of there. So those are the types you'd be looking at. And then if you can't get any of them, then you're looking at your assistant coaches.
I've got to say, I think Clarkson will be your first call. We've got a variety. 100%. Lee Matthews, Malthouse, Ross Lyon. He'll be linked with every job ever. I don't mind Don Pike. I think that, and this is why I was confident Voss would be good for us. I think there's something about a guy that's tried, failed, and then gone away and been someone's dog's body. Because I think it makes them hungry. It makes them humble. And if they're anything like myself, who's competitive, that would eat you away thinking, fuck, now I know that. If only I could go back to Brisbane, I bet that it ate Vossi alive. And I reckon Adelaide, Don Pike, he's there at the moment at Sydney. I bet he's like, God, if only I'd done this, I'd still have the Adelaide
100%.
job. So I think that would be good.
Agree.
Simpson, I know he's favourite, one of the favourites, but I just think, does he need a break? He's been at the same place a long time.
He looks tired. That comment that Edwina put up before about coach's experience gives the team confidence too. That is so spot on. That could not be more accurate. You think about your own job, right? I'm in situations in my job where I get spoken to by my bosses, my leaders, who honestly experience. Come on, and you're thinking, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I know you can't do what you're telling me to do. So you do have that minuscule, and I know we're all professionals and we do what we need to do, but you do have that minuscule little bit of lack of respect because you know that person telling you what to do can't do what you do. Does that make sense? I know that was a bit of jargon there, but when you have someone like a Voss or a Clark or someone walk in, it's like, okay, this bloke knows what he's talking about. You know, I've had bosses like David T, who I'm like, I've seen you in the classroom. You can't be telling me what to do, right? And I've had bosses like a Michael Voss. Shit, I've seen you in the classroom. I'm listening to what you have to say.
Mate, no, I agree with you. So, I mean, I think we're all agreement in chat. They need someone big. I mean, Adam Kingsley, Tim, I reckon he'd be high up if the knock on the door of the senior coaches. I think he'd be the first port of call. But I think maybe it's a good sign that North, the sacking coach, is quick because I think we need to see more of that. The next one,
I agree.
The next one here, I think the chat will like this. Players do stats what their roles, and what I mean by this is players like Adam Saad. I don't think they get enough respect as a halfback flanker because they're a defender, but they attack too much. So the media then starts saying, "Oh, he can't defend." You hear opposition fans going, "Oh, I see him at Carlton. He's running inside 50, can't defend one-on-one." But then you actually go through his stats and you actually look and you think, hang about, he is one of the best defenders. I think as a halfback, he is the third best defender in the comp one-on-one. But the media associate him with purely an attacking player. However, he's not. The numbers clearly say he's good at his job. He's got an excess. But then on another token, it works against them, the stats. So George Hewitt, people go, oh, well, Clayton Oliver, 35 touches. You know what I mean? 10 clearances a game. But then you look at George Hewitt and look at how strong, how integral he is at Carlton. He doesn't get the reputation. People will say, oh, no, I'd have Clayton Hewitt all the time. I'd have Clayton Oliver all the time. However, this weekend, all but 4 opportunities Carlton created went through George Hewitt. But watch the coaches' votes. Cripps was there. TDK was there. But literally, David Teague, Michael Voss wouldn't have won that game without Hewitt because Hewitt was involved in everything but 4 attempts, 3 of which he was on the bench. So my question is, do players sometimes get stereotyped, pigeonholed by what they do by looking flashy, putting up ridiculous numbers?
100%. 100% they do. I mean, use the example of Adam Saad. I mean, there are loads of examples out there of players who, from the eye, you think, oh, that they're this certain type of player. Sam Walsh is another one who gets pigeonholed as a certain player. But I also think it works also the other way. See, for me with statistics and player stats, I would love it when people start comparing players. I mean, you mentioned, I think it was last week's show with the Dacos Walsh thing about grouping the players when you're comparing stats. So, I mean, if I see one more time that, such and such only got 10 touches in the back line, you know, he needs to be dropped for Liam Stocker, who got 30 touches in the back line. Mate, I'll go nuts because you know what? That bloke may have only got 10 touches, but his forward only had 3, and I'm taking that every day of the week. So stats do completely, you know, out of proportion a player in both their position and both what they do. But I also think as well, small forwards, warping their roles. Small forwards get such a bum's rush when it comes to are they a half forward versus a forward pocket? Because you think, oh, well, he's not getting much of the ball, so he's obviously not or not hitting the scoreboard, so he has no role in the team. Stats suck in that regard.
Mate, I agree. And thank you very much, Robbie. Love your work. Love your $2.99 donation. We love you too, Robbie. Rowan, this is a great comment here. Good life lesson for anyone whose stats need context. Now, I'm a man that loves my stats, but I pride myself that the stats I give you tell the story. They complement the story. So I thought what you just said there, spot on. Small forwards. My biggest bugbear in the media is they grab a small forward and they suddenly hit you with goals. And they're like, he's generating 6 score involvements coming directly off him. He has 20 team score involvements, 3 goals a game, and everyone's like, whoa, what a player, what a player. But then you listen to championship winning coaches. Lee Matthews was a stickler. My small forwards don't kick goals. They stop the defense getting it out. Clarkson prided himself that his defenders, his forwards, small forwards, must average more tackles than their goals a game. Dimmer, my small forwards are there to tackle, not kick goals. I will be upset if they have a 0 in the tackle column. And it's the way I think people perceive stats, like Charlotte there. Gorgeous George doing wonders for your Supercoach team. It's interesting that, and I saw Bugsbell talk about Merritt. Merritt gets a lot of raps, but you actually break his game style down. He's getting junk time touches at junk time moments. And I saw a comment earlier about Cripper getting panned in the press, like Lockie says. Cripper, interesting enough, there is an algorithm for stats. Genuinely, a jet midfielder improves in his turnovers and his score involvements, right, if they win flags. Trent Cotchin is a massive example that his score involvement shot up, his tackles shot up. However, his disposals went down. Do you know what I mean? His influence went down and it became more condensed. Interesting enough, you look at his 3 best years in them numbers, he actually won a flag. And his 3 worst numbers, bar his draft year, in disposals, were when he won a flag. So technically, Cripper is playing better football right now than it is. And my argument is, the Brisbane game, you will win a flag if Cripper does what he did last week 24 times over 24 times when Cripper had 40 touches and the rest of the midfield did fuck all.
Yeah, and we talk about team defense, team midfield, and all that, and I know this is a little bit different, but I spoke about Carlton's defense last year. Statistically, individually, our defenders were doing better last year. Liam Jones was one of the best defenders in the comp. Jacob Wiedering's stats last year were better than this year. But we were conceding so much. Why? Because I don't give 2 shits about disposals for a defender. I don't give 2 shits about, all the ones you care about defenders are spoiling, one-on-one contests, and the whole team as a collective. They're doing so much better this year. So when you're looking individually, yeah, it's great. Hey, he had a good game. You'll get 3 votes. Yeah, leading the Brownlow, fantastic. But it's the collective. And I think that's where people get lost when they try and decide who's had a good game or who hasn't, or who needs to get dropped and who doesn't, based on, I'll just bring it up here on my phone. Yeah, he had this many stats. He had this. He's got to get dropped. He only had 13. I mean, come on.
Mate, I'm with you, and I'm with Rowan again. I love scats, but they think a scalpel, depending on who's using them. And it's really important as well. Carlton, Brian Cook came out this year and saying that's been a massive influx of the club. Data. And it shocked me when he said it, because I'm like, why does the club not use data? Because in my industry, in development, data is everything, because it is the plot line. And then it's my job to see what the fuck the story is. But they can really help you. And I think the media, like you say, midfielders, it's still that thing. 35 touches, 40 touches. Oh, everyone has a sing and dance. But that poor guy who had 22 touches probably won the game. And it was proven this week with George Hewitt. And I think Bugsbell nails it. When Cripper has less of the ball, That's because he's doing his primary role, picking the ball up, giving it to someone. I can show you an example here because it's still in my things. But this is Carlton's average positioning, right? Because I'm a nerd, I went through every game, right? This is their general game plan. Cripps wins ball, Kennedy blocks, TDK blocks, Hewitt receives ball, and Walsh does this little dinky run round there. Sard, Doc, and Cherub go for space. But Cripper there isn't getting 40 touches. However, he does the most important job. Gets the ball, and he creates space for someone else. And this is my bugbear with the AFL. They don't give players like Bo McCreary, like Ben's just talked about there, do you know what I mean, respect, because they haven't kicked 6 goals. But he won the game, Bo, for Collingwood this week.
His last quarter was phenomenal.
But no one talks about him. And it's Nick Dacos. It does my head in. He's having 30 touches, though, Pom. Okay, look at the other things he's doing, though. Like, the touches are irrelevant. Look at the other things he's doing.
Yeah, and the comment by Jordan up there as well about Sard, that's exactly what I was saying. People saying he had a poor game because he had 13 touches. I've watched the game 3 times and I still haven't seen Libbojrjr, so I don't really know, I don't really know what people's problem is. So.
And Jordan's spot on. I listened to an article today about the AA. I need to find it. I can't remember where I watched it, but it was one of them little pop-up things. But they were talking about Sard and saying he's not all Australian because he's not really a defender, is he? He's a winger that happens to play off halfback. And I'm like, he is literally intercept marked, spoil. Watch Carlton play. He is sometimes our last line of defence on transition. The guy is a bloody good defender.
Yeah, look, the All-Australian to me is the biggest piece of shit. Until Carlton players are in it, then I obviously rate it, but it's the biggest piece of shit. I mean, I've seen people say Connor Rosie should be in the All-Australian. Why? Because he played 3 good games in a row. Mate, yeah, come on.
Mate, I'm with you. And like Gav says, right, Cripps has sacrificed his game from the team. That is spot on. And that is huge. And as Chris says here, what are the KPIs that should apply for forwards, backs, and mids? It's interesting because one of my good friends works in recruitment at Melbourne, and we spend a lot of time together doing analytics and chatting crap. It's interesting because if you actually look at the data that Champs Data uses, they work on a metric in the 90s, right? The old school metric. And that exists way too much in football. You know, kick and marking nowadays, worst thing you can do in AFL. Worst thing you can do. Kicking it long. That is a 90s, noughties thing. Carlton play and Collingwood play a very modern day. Short, sharp, quick. Lots of moving pieces. Look at old sport. That's how you do it. But their data is still looking for an archaic method where you look at like ELO campaigns that EPL use their data program. It changes every year by what's in vogue in the industry. So when we were kids, Fazz, wingers, what did they do? Cross the fucking ball.
Cross the ball.
Nowadays,
they
don't.
The ball. Yeah. Cut in and shoot. Yeah. Yeah, and I think as well with the KPIs, as Chris was saying, that you know, each section obviously has different KPIs, you know, and what you're looking for. But the one thing about Champs Data that really frustrates me is how a kick over 40 meters is still considered an effective disposal, regardless of what happens to it. And I think that's something that's a bit archaic, as you said. So.
Do you know what I mean? Like Rio says here, Cripps' effect hasn't been noticeable, but Hewitt has played that wrong chair. I actually think Cripps' role, in my opinion, has got bigger because he is creating the space for Walsh, for Chera. Like I think I've always said it. I don't think you win a flag if Cripps is your star. I think you win your flag if Cripps becomes an Elliot Yeo in 2018. Does the hard things, gets the ball out, becomes a menace, gives it out to players that can play, and then totters on forward. I think that's where he's his dangerous.
I saw someone post about I really want Cripps to do more because he won't win the Brownlow this way. And I'm like, I can't even comment on that. If you're worried about Cripps winning the Brownlow, I mean, sure, if he does on the night, we'll be stoked. But if that's your number one target right now, you probably need to reassess
Mate,
Reassess
I can
yourself.
guarantee Cripps couldn't give a fuck about winning a Brownlow. He'd rather win a flag. And like, I know he got a lot of shit last week about that holding the ball, but I blame David Teague, Bolton, Cowton fans for that because we have indoctrinated Cripps into naturally without you, we can't win. Where Cripps, you can see what Michael Voss said to Ollie Wines. If you go back and watch his Brownlow interview, he said that just do what you can do. And if you do what you can do well, we win. And that was all because Ollie Wine said he bought into the media that he wasn't Martin, he wasn't Fife, he wasn't impactful, he was just a big oaf who got the ball out. And it was Voss who took him to one side and says, you do that better than anyone in the comp, mate. Just do it. And I think that's what's huge. And I think the AFL don't give enough love to players that do the right thing because they are indoctrinated in the wrong fucking stats.
They if they're not sexy, yeah, then they don't get the coverage. Unfortunately, if they're not sexy on the eye, then they don't get the coverage.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's a huge thing. Do you know what I mean? And like Tim says, at the end of the day, all this is non-consequential. But I mean, like, another argument I'll give you is I read an article today about Ben Mackay, and they were like, oh, Ben Mackay, more contested marks than anyone in the comp. Yeah, because there's about 255 inside 50s. This was my argument with Wheaterin last year. Of course, he's going to have high defensive numbers, but I've sat and had a beer with Wheaterin. He fucking hated it. Hated life. Hated it. He, because I said to him, I remember, and he had a good laugh. I said, I bet you get fucking bored now. The ball doesn't come inside 50. And he was like, you know what? I love it. I love it because now when I take that intercept, now when I win it, I am winning the battle for my team. It's more important than, oh shit, I better win this one because in 20 seconds, Brian's going to turn it over in the corridor and it's fucking coming back. Like, and it's a huge thing. So again, the AFL, again, getting the dick out for Ben Mackay. Is he a bet? But look at soccer. You would be laughed out if you said, oh, the best centre-back in the Premier League plays for Brighton.
For Norwich. Yeah.
Yeah, on Norwich, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
But I agree. And like Sandra says, the media make him feel like he has to be like that. I agree. And that's what happens. The pressure they put on players. You know, no Cripps, no Cowton. But look at Cowton now. Stop Hewitt, stop Chera, stop Walsh, stop Mackay, stop Kerner. If you can't stop them, stop Sard. Like, I'd love the media to be fair and actually judge the player on their role, not the fucking numbers.
Beautiful. Couldn't agree more.
And use the numbers to back up your argument. Don't use the numbers to make the argument. Well, then we go on to another media bugbear. And this applies to Carlton fans. Yeah. Pretender. Is it the worst used phrase in the AFL?
Oh, mate, I hate it. Flip-flopping nonsense, it is. So, you win a game, or use Carlton as again, beat Fremantle. Geez, they're flag, could win the flag here. They're a good chance. Lose to St Kilda. Oh, geez, they're going to hang on by finals. They're just making up the numbers. To beating West Coast by 10 goals. To, geez, you wouldn't want to play them in finals. It is flip-flopping nonsense. And the word pretender is just gets thrown around anytime someone remotely near the top 8 or in the top 8 loses a game. And I tell you what, unless you win 22 games of the season, someone in the media will call you a pretender, and it's absolute bollocks.
It is actually my favorite thing in the world because it makes no sense to me because, like, when we lost to St Kilda, we were literally pretenders, right? But then we beat 17th, right? Just let that sink in. 17th, second shittest side in the ladder by 60, which I'm just going to say, I don't want to say it's not a good performance, but that is what I would expect 5th to 17th to do. Be 5 goals minimum difference. Now everyone's like, oh, fucking hell, Carlton look good, don't they? And I'm like, hang about, of course they do. Yeah. If Liverpool beat Norwich at Anfield 10-0, no one gets excited. It's like, well done. It's what you should do. But as soon as a side loses, like Brisbane, only 2 weeks ago, when we were losing to St Kilda, they were like, I reckon Brisbane are the team to beat. Hungry, few finals they've lost. Hungry. They lose last week, and everyone's like, no, Brisbane are cooked.
Well, I will say Paul stole my thunder because my next line was literally going to be, it's pretenders second only to the term danger game as the worst phrase in footy.
Top 3 things I see: pretenders, danger game, and where's Dow?
Yeah.
Literally top 3 things. But I agree with you. It's flip flop. Like, why can't the statistics are there for you as well. Teams generally this time of year lose, right? Geelong will lose 2 games. Mark my words, from now to the end of the year.
Yeah, one will be on Saturday.
Yeah, when Carlton win, are we going to say, "Oh, Geelong are cooked"? Like, are we? Like, after winning 7 in a row, nah, Geelong are fucked, bro.
Yeah, pretenders.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It makes you hungry. Bev Tone, good banter, well done. Baby Bombers is hated. The fact that the media have always got to come up with a niche phrase does my nut in. It's they can't just say Carlton were bad against St Kilda, weren't they? It's the fact they have to then say, pack your bags, Cripsy's going to Bali.
I love it. I love it.
Do you know what I mean? Where's Stocker? I'll accept that. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I'll accept it. Bugs Bell, I did talk about Dow in my last video with Paolo, I've got to admit, but that was for a reason. That was for a reason. Hopefully, so people understand why he's not there, because there's conspiracies. But the next one we've got, list management. Is it a quick payoff, or is it a slow burn?
This is a really good question about which is the way to go, or which you'd prefer. And I think no greater comparison is the game that's happening Saturday night between Carlton and Geelong, as far as quick payoff versus slow burn. To me, I always refer back to that quote of Stephen Silvani way back when he said, anyone can build a list to play finals. Dodoro's proven that anyone can build a list to play finals, but it's very hard to build a list to win a premiership. I'm not saying Carlton will win a premiership by any stretch, but what I mean is, you ask fans, would you rather be down for 7 years and then look like you can win a flag, or be like Geelong and be there and abouts every year for the last 10 years at least, but never quite paying off? Each to their own. Personally, I guess in the moment, you'd like to be up and about every year, give yourself a chance. But I do think there is a little bit of an asterisk towards this. And I believe that I wrote this down because I thought about it quite deeply, and I thought that a quick payoff, as in building a list quick payoff, can only work once you've had a good list. You can't just, so in 2015, Carlton couldn't have done a quick payoff because we didn't have the list. So for example, everyone says that Geelong don't have to rebuild. They keep topping up. They've got good players. But they topped up a premiership team, remember? They topped up a premiership list. They won 3 flags in 5 years. So it's not like they've just gone out of their way to just, look what we've done. They had the core of a premiership team and topped up around that. Collingwood did it as well. They've got the core group of a premiership team or a grand final team from 2018. You can only do a quick payoff once you've had the good list. So you look at Carlton now. Once you do a slow burn, like Carlton, like North and all that, you shouldn't have to do another slow burn for a generation. If you're a good list manager, you should just be able to keep topping up this list to be thereabouts, similar to Geelong. That's what I think. So what's better, what's worse? I personally think you can't do one without the other. I personally think you can't do a quick payoff unless you've had a rebuild of some sort.
No, I agree with you. I think I think some great ones here as well. Jai nails it for me. List management is chess, not checkers. I think it's spot on. Gav nails it as well. You need the older heads to mentor. I think you can maybe do a quick one if you maybe the pies, right?
Yeah.
Because I think what they did the other year where they jettisoned some players, got some pick in. I remember at the time people saying I was crazy. I was like, I think this will pay them back in dividends very quickly. My only question with that is, have they got enough picks for mid-talent to come through and replace your Pendleburys, your Adams, your Crisps? But time will tell. But I think that's the only way you can do it. But I do agree, right, that it's slow. And I do remember a good friend of mine going to a seminar with Stephen Silvani. And this was just when he got relieved at Carlton and he left. And he said to the guy asking the question, said, how long does it take you to build a list to make finals? And he said, I could have done it within 6 months at Carlton. But he was like, what's the point of winning a final? The aim's to win a flag. And he was like, that takes time. But he was like, he could come into any AFL club and build in one window, no matter what the state of the team is, team that could compete in finals. Wouldn't have the depth, though, to win a flag. And I thought that was interesting. And then you look at the good rebuilds. I think Carlton have done a very good rebuild. And I personally think Carlton would have done well now if we had Voss 2 years ago.
Yeah. And I think, so I look at two teams, all right, outside of Carlton, who I think have done a really good rebuild. And I look at two teams who I think are quite similar in their journeys and their paths. I look at Hawthorn and I look at Richmond. Both won their 3 flags. Now, Hawthorn went down the path of, we won our 3 flags, getting rid of their older players, Hodge and Mitchell and Lewis, but also trading high draft picks to bring in your likes of a Tom Mitchell, Wingard, and so on. Richmond are about to come into that situation where they've got to face the exact same problem that Hawthorn. They have to make a decision what they do. Now, I think Hawthorn made the right decision to get rid of Mitchell, Lewis, Hodge. But I think where they stuffed up was giving away high draft picks. So I look at Richmond and I say, by the end of this year, they should be looking at trying to get rid of Dusty, Cochin, Jack Rewalt, Edwards, those types of players, but keeping your high draft picks. Don't go out and trade for if you can get a hopper, great, but don't go out and give high draft picks for 26, 27-year-olds like a Tom Mitchell that Hawthorn did. Keep your high draft picks because that is how you keep your list priming. And I honestly believe, you name those, so Dusty, Cochin, Jack Rewalt, Edwards, horrible to lose them. You probably don't want to lose them all at once. But I know with Richmond, if they were to get rid of those and keep topping up this list with 18-year-old top talent and bringing in some free agents and all that, they could easily go again. They could easily reel it again because that's what you do. At Hawthorn stuffed up, in my opinion. Richmond have got the chance now to not fall into that same trap.
I agree with you. I think you look at Hawthorn, they jettisoned their players when they could have probably gone at a tilt at another flag. But I would have said when they jettisoned their players, it was literally probably they needed a bit more luck than anything, but they did go the hard way, and I think they'll bounce back. I think Tigers, I agree with what you're saying and what Gav, I think they've really clinged on to that, and I think there's not much coming through, and I think the best teams like Hawthorn, their dynasty seemed to go on longer than normal because they started to filter players through as well while they had their stars, and I think age is a really big, important thing, having the mentors at your club as well. So I would hope Carlton 2028 really start to phase Cripps out and have young blood there. Do you know what I mean? Young blood. You want to be drafting your Cripps replacement 2024. So 3 years for a midfielder to really body up. He's ready. He's good to go. So I think it's a really interesting argument. As Rio asked this, I feel like you've set me up for some Australian joke. Wake up, George. There, I've said it. Whatever I've backfired myself to, please let me know. Good day to you, Lana.
I think effectively, like what we're saying and what I've said is the teams we've just spoken about have all gone through the slow burn rebuild. Hawthorn went through it. Richmond have gone through it. Carlton went through it and so on. Geelong, if they are to win the premiership this year, I don't think if they don't win it this year, I'm not sure if they can win it next year or so on. If Geelong win the premiership this year, the whole system all of a sudden looks up and say, whoa, okay, we can do this. Richmond look up and say, we can do this. Possibly West Coast look up and say, hang on a minute, McGovern, Shuey, Darling, we can do this. It all of a sudden changes the entire landscape if Geelong win the premiership this year. If Geelong don't win the premiership this year, then it's status quo. All right, you need to drop out, you need to rebuild, 6-year rebuild and travel. Because let's be serious, Geelong, I love them, I respect them, I think they're fantastic. But unless they win a premiership, then great. Good on yous. You're the home and away team of the season every year. Well done. But
Mate,
you need to win a
I
premiership.
agree with you. I think Geelong are under the most pressure this year because you can't keep doing that. I think Sydney, for me as well, their rebuild, that they've done it at the right side. They have got players in to slowly replace, and you're starting to see it now. Kennedy playing predominantly this year on the wing. Madness. But their youth is taking the majority of that hard work now, knowing they've still got Kennedy there to help out if needs be. I think that is probably, if you're the perfect model. But the second thing I want to talk about as well is Richmond. I thought they made mistakes when they started jettisoning second players.
Yes.
Right? And Carlton are in that position now. Look at someone like Lockie Plowman. In an ideal world, if Marchbank's fit, McGovern's fit, you don't need him. You can draft a third in, 18 years old, and sell Plowman probably for a second or a third. Guy that's played over 100 games, been in and around the leadership at Carlton. Dow again, didn't quite work out, but probably could work out for a side that's looking for that. That, for me, is where if you're good at list management, you can stay in the good times.
Yeah, 100%. And Sydney, I mean, every player, every older player on a young list thinks they can be the next Shane Crawford from 08. I've heard Mark Murphy talk about it. He thought of, he's mentioned many times that when Carlton were in, he thought maybe I can be the next Shane Crawford. Maybe Luke Parker can be the next Shane Crawford and finish off on a high. You're not a main person in that team when they win the flag, but you're there. And I think that's what, Pendlebury, can he be the next? Oh God, I hope not. But could he be the next Shane Crawford and that team for a flag? There was a comment here. I don't want to offend anyone, but Geelong have a huge advantage because they are always a desirable destination. I hope you're talking about the club because I've been to Geelong and it's a shithole. So I hope you're talking about the club itself and not the town or the city that they call it. Because you know what? No offense to people who live in Geelong, but I couldn't want to live further away. So.
It's not technically part of Melbourne. We're fine. No, I think that's a great topic. And the last for our topics before we get onto the fun bits, Buddy Franklin. Where do we think he's going?
He's staying in Sydney, surely. I mean, for the fun of it, all right. Let's have a bit of fun because Mark Robinson put a thing in the paper. He could end up. Is he going to want to go to a North or he's staying in Sydney? I can't even pretend to act like he's going somewhere else. But to North, he's fully set up in Sydney. Sydney's where he wants to live. Is he really going to come down and play for North? I don't know. What do you think, Tom? I don't know.
I've got a feeling. You know where I think he'll go, and this kind of links to the rebuild session. If I was Hawthorn, knowing that I'll probably get a pick right in the crux of the key forwards this year, he reckons he's got a year or 2 years left. If I was Hawthorn, I'd have a sniff. I think Mitch Lewis is sensational. I think Mitch Lewis will be a bit like Harry in the terms of you've seen how easy it is for Harry to have a body there as well, and how Charlie and him operate having that extra help as opposed to leading the line, which I still think Mitch Lewis is too young to lead the line. I think having that extra little diversion, I think the year or two you could get out of Buddy into a youngster as well. Maybe an Isaac Keeler, a guy I'm a big fan of. I think it can just it can just jettison it. So I've got a feeling that Hawthorn might sniff if he comes in.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. And it would be nice to see him there, but I just can't see Sydney letting him go. It's just sorry.
Say what? Geelong copping it. Do you know what I mean? But do you know what I mean? He's absolutely copping it as Geelong. And everyone's favourite segment. Give us them in the audience as well. What is your unpopular football opinion?
Okay, I've got a bit of a left field one here. Well, it's not really left field, but something that's been doing the rounds the last couple of days. And my unpopular opinion is that Carlton should not, and that is should not, get anything in compensation for Liam Jones should he play at another club in 2023. That is should not get anything.
Fucking hell, Fazz.
Yeah,
Jeez,
I know.
trying to get us counselled, kid. Go on, then, explain it to me, young
All right.
Fazz.
Okay, I'll explain it this way. So he retired. There was another option. There were other options. We could have put him on the inactive list. So that was another main option. We could have said, hey, stay on the list, stay around, you just can't play. But he chose to retire. The club let him retire with their blessings, knowing full well that this was going to happen. You cannot tell me that they did not know that this was going to happen. Okay. There was obviously a little bit of bad blood that's occurred between Liam and the football club, which is fine. But 32 next year, he's been out of football for a year. If people come at me with compensation picks with X, and it's just, the reality is, whatever team he's going to, they're not going to be paying him top dollar anyway. It's quite simple. Carlton just shouldn't get anything. Move on. Like I'm sick of seeing the name Liam Jones. Like it's done. He's retired. He left. I know it's AFL precedent, but there were other options. There were other options. We could have put him on an inactive list. We could have even put it on the side. He didn't have to say the words retired, but the club. My understanding is the club did that to get his wages off the books. We made that decision as a football club.
Mate, I think you've posed an argument. I mean, I know people feel strongly about it that we should be recompensated. I mean, I think in my opinion, I genuinely don't care enough. Do you know what I mean? In the terms of if we do get a third or a fourth, which I can't see it being more than a fourth. I really can't.
If it's going to be anything, it's going to be a pick in the 70s. Like,
do you know what I mean?
Serious.
And I think your statistics are too low that you're going to get someone. For me, I don't care enough. Like if we get something that's a bonus, but I can't see it being a pick of note. We've got some good ones before I give mine. I do love it though that you've rattled the foundations of That's the Fazz I know and love.
My phone's going nuts.
There's going to be a brick coming through his window behind him in a minute. Mitch, good day to you, mate of Fazz. 2 meter Peter is more than just a meme now. He's a very big fucking meme. He's coming to be fair, I'll give you. I'll validate that. He hasn't been bad.
Mitch, love you, mate. Excellent. We talk about 2 meter Peter a lot. My God, a fucking thing I tweeted 2 years ago about the trade Essendon and Gold Coast resurfaced on Twitter last night. I'm like, what is going on? I'm getting buried by Essendon fans and people. I'm like, what is going on here? Like something that was tweeted 2 years ago. So 2 meter Peter, yeah, I like him. So for any Essendon fans listening, it's a great pickup. Well done. Far out.
Mate, I'm with you. I'm loving some of Rio's here. Charlie Kerno is more dangerous than Mackay. Actually, when I recorded my video this afternoon, off camera, we had an argument, me and Paolo, because he's Team Harry, I'm Team Charlie. Great argument. Do you know what I mean? Great argument between two big fans of that. Media trying to take credit for the woof, not credit the jumper punch. Spot on. Ugar, thank you so much. A $31 donation. Pommy, if we beat the Cats, you think we should play grand final favourites? I think we beat the Cats. Here's Pom's big call before his unpopular opinion. Top 2. I think we'll fight top 2. I think if you look at the ladder, and this leads me on to my unpopular opinion. My unpopular opinion is Collingwood, right? And this is not just for hatred. This is legit what I believe from having a look at it.
Good.
Collingwood won't make finals. Gold Coast Suns will play finals.
Yes! What a result. I love that. That's not unpopular.
I know it's an unpopular opinion because the media are telling me that Collingwood are the best team in the land, right? And it's not Carlton bias. It's just look at the evidence. Last 4 games, they've won by what? The skin of their teeth. I don't think they're as good as they are. And I predict I'll go as far as this. Round 23, bookmark this. Carlton will play Collingwood. Winning means Carlton will finish second. Losing, but also knocking Pies out of the 8th goal cause Suns to get in the 8th.
Oh, Pommy, that is the greatest call of all time.
Umpire!
I got a question for you. All right.
Hit me.
What would you rather? Collingwood miss finals in the scenario that you just said, which is amazing, or get knocked out in an elimination final a la Essendon last season?
Hand on heart, I know Swoop will watch this on repeat because he promised me he would. If Carlton play Collingwood round 23, we win and we knock them out, I will continue the live stream as I go round to Swoop Luke's house and let him know all about it.
That's a great call.
I will break his door down while he's sat there having dinner with his family and fucking go in there naked.
I love the idea of them missing finals, especially on the last game. But I tell you what, and apologies, Richie, Mitch, love you boys, but and this is not to them, by the way, but my favorite aspect of last year was those 2 weeks of Essendon, after they made finals, Essendon supporters talking about the drought's going to be over, the drought's going to be this, and the doggies just rolled it, mate. It was just the glorious build up to them getting knocked out of finals. I loved every second of it, but I do like the idea of the Pies.
Just imagine it, round 23, right? And they'll probably play it a Friday night, I'd imagine, right? Imagine it. They win, they make finals. Carlton miss the 4. Carlton win, they make the 4, and we knock Pies out.
Yeah,
just imagine that.
I wouldn't be going to work the next day, I can tell you that right now.
And you know what, 7, I like this. My boss is a massive Pies fan. Like, there is, I hate to say it, Ben's in chat as well, good fan of mine. There is some nice Pies fans. It makes it hard when they're nice, but it would be, I'll admit, I would take great pleasure in their misfortune.
And this is what's tricky, isn't it? Because 3 of my closest, who I consider 3 of my closest mates, Aaron, Mitch, and Richie, they're all Essendon supporters. So I've got this massive soft spot. I know I've got a little bit of soft spot for Essendon because you want to see your mates up and about. It's not fun when you don't want to kick a beat dog. I'm very big on that. They never kicked me when Carlton were down, so I won't kick them. I'll kick Essendon on Twitter. You get on Twitter if you want to see me kick Essendon. Get on Twitter, but I'll never kick my mates. Aaron, Richie, and Mitch because they're your mates. So yeah, there are some good ones out there. Yeah, if you want to see me kick Essendon, follow me on Twitter.
To be fair though, I don't have any Essendon mates, but any Tigers mates I've got on Pies, I just don't talk football because they're all fucking idiots. I'm going to be honest. But we're at the questions point of the round. We'll have 10 minutes of throwing them out. Rio, do you think Vossi's right? 4 points matters, but at the end of the day, he's still in percentage. I'm of Vossi's school as well. I think win enough games, percentage means fuck all.
Yeah, I agree more. Percentage takes care of itself. You win enough games. No one's ever going to do it. But if you win 22 games by a point, who cares? There's no percentage when it comes to finals either. So it just obviously just dictates where you finish. But wins for sure.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm with you. I obviously it matters in an element, but I don't think it's. I'm with Voss. Get enough wins, you finish first. Do you know what I mean? And
this is a question.
This is a good one here. Right. Would we rather knock Pies out in 23 or knock them out in elimination? Me personally, round 23, because I think being so close but so far.
Yeah.
And being the ones to fuck it. Mate,
my health couldn't handle having to play Collingwood in an elimination final. I couldn't do it. So yeah, I don't want to knock them out, see them there. If you could promise me, if you could do a bit of Back to the Future and Biff with his book and say, hey, don't worry, Carlton are winning, then yeah, I'll take it. But that 2 weeks would be the worst 2 weeks of my life, building up to the final. Nah. Knock them out first.
I think the only way you could get better is if it's a granny, right? And it was like that game that me and Swoop did the watch along on, where at halftime they battered us, and then we came home with a wet sail. Like in an ideal world, it would be awesome to play pies and a granny, then be 60 up at half time.
Yeah.
And us win by 16. Like the 1970s final that we did, the one late 70s. Something like that. That would be grouse.
Oh, it would be. It'd be horrible on the heart. What Rio said there, percentage is what could make us nearly finish out of the top 8. If we finish out of the top 8, then we're not good enough. Simple as that. Like, win 13 games. It's
Mate,
fine.
eight's a lot. Don't you worry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
Crips or track?
Petrarca.
Really?
Yeah.
Fazz?
Yeah.
We're not on the unpopular opinion anymore.
Nah, look, I mean, just I think if you were just to pick Cripps up and put Petrarca in, we'd all just because of what he could do. Yeah, I think we could bring Dow in, but I think we could kind of mold our way around. Yeah, no, I like Petrarca, but yeah. Sorry.
I'd rather have Cripps. I'm not a big flashy football player, to be honest. I don't like flashy ones. Do we think North will survive the rebuild? Well, I mean, is living in Tassie surviving? We don't know. But I think North will end up in Tassie. And I think if they get this next coach wrong, I reckon it'll happen before 2025.
All right. I'm going to go the other way around. I'm of the big belief that you can't make decisions on the future of football clubs based on a small period of their history. If that was the case, then Carlton should have folded 6-7 years ago, right? North Melbourne are debt-free, right? They've got their facilities and all that. If you're going to send anyone to Tasmania, if you're going to fold anyone, fold St Kilda. That's in my opinion, because
Mrs. Pom.
They may be playing in a good passage of football now, but you can't make a decision on a football club based on results per season, right? Because it wasn't that long ago when Carlton were winning wooden spoons at North Melbourne were playing preliminary finals under Brad Scott. So how can you make that decision based on what they're doing? They've got, like I said, they're debt free and all that. If they can't, they'll come out of this. They'll come out of it. I can't see. I can see if the AFL start trying to push them to Tassie, but I can't see it just purely because of, I think that off field financially they're not that bad. St Kilda on the other hand, I don't know. Doggies too. They're the teams you.
Yeah. Tell you what, Daddy Fazz as well. Shots fired.
Yeah. He hates me.
I'm with you, Wayne. Mate, I don't like any side other than Carlton, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Apart from hanging shit on them. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, the big one here is from Rio. This is a good one as well. Get your questions in. We've got, I'll give it another 5 because I enjoyed chatting to you. Yep. Do you think home advantage is true and affects the game?
Yes, I do. I really do. There's not much more to say. Yeah.
Speaking to the players, I know they say fan noise does. So, I mean, I think no one watches football in Western Australia other than Carlton fans, evidently, because that was a technical home game for us. But I do think it makes a massive thing. But, I mean, I'm also weird. I believe in positive energy, a combination of collective thoughts. I think that affects it. But I do think it's a lot easier for Carlton to play at the G against Fremantle, as proved this year, than play Optus with them, because Fremantle were the only real club in WA, really, let's be honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. It definitely has an impact, for sure.
Do you know what I mean? And do we reckon we make prelims? I'm a pessimist. I never talk about making grannies.
We make the prelim.
Lock that in.
With the fourth best team. I know we're sitting 5th, but those who watch this show know my opinion on Brisbane, the most vanilla side ever. We're the 4th best team. In fact, our best is probably almost the 2nd best team, but we'll make the prelim. All things being equal, other than injuries and all that stuff, we'll make a prelim. Don't stress.
I've got to say, Fazz, we do have a habit of cursing footballers or players. Since you've said that about Brisbane, they have been dog shit.
Yeah. Well, no, I just speak facts, mate. I just speak facts. Like it's
Fazz broke Brisbane. If you are a Brisbane fan watching this, 100% in, because since he said that, Brisbane are 28 in Carlton. It's good to see though, because I ruined Mendy's career. So
yeah, that was the best. That was the best time of my life when you ruined Mendy's career.
I apologise to my Chelsea mates that I ruined your keeper. Should Mitch McGovern play this week?
Question.
100% for me.
I saw a hilarious comment saying Mitch McGovern shouldn't play the twos because why waste the only 2 good quarters that we're going to get from him in the twos? And I thought that was quite funny. I'm a little bit the other way. I'm like, because a lot of people say if he's going to get injured, may as well get injured in the ones. I'd rather not be one player down if he gets injured in the ones. I want to make sure if he's 100% cherry ripe, then go for it. Yeah, whatever. But if you think there's even the slightest chance he's going to get injured, I don't know. I really don't know because, I don't want to get stuck with.
I'm of the school. If he can play 4 quarters in VFL, why not just play him in the AFL? Because I think the way he plays is he's totally fine. I think if he's on limited minutes...
Yes, well, what if he is on limited minutes?
If he's limited minutes, it's 2s, because at least you can pull him out, and if he dies, he dies. Do you know what I mean? But if Russell came to me and said he can play the full game... I'd be like, well, put him in the seniors then. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But if it's 50-50, it's like, oh, well, you can only play 60 minutes. I don't like what dogs do. I mean, Eagles do with Nick Nat. Oh, he's on 60 this week, and then we're waking up to 75% by the end of round 20. That's what you've got Waffle for? Obviously, he's playing that for a reason. So, for me, I'm not a fan. Stocker for Plowman. Not for me, purely because of the size differential.
Not for me, but I like the idea, but just not for me.
Do you know what I mean? What else have we got? I saw a good one here. I can't find it. Where is? Oh, here we are. Look. Robbie Williams is a counterpart. Is that an omen? Good surname as well as old Rob. I think it's a massive. I can't wait to get on the beers and tell Robbie Williams is my cousin. I'm going to be down Lygon Street telling people, cousin that, same name.
It's a good omen. I'll take it. I'll take anything as an omen, to be honest.
The last beautiful one, last 2 to finish off with. Why can't old grounds be the same size as Daddy Fazz? I agree with, honestly, if you look at the dimensions of the GMHBA to the MCG, you could be playing fucking tennis versus playing rugby. It's like not even in the realms of reality. So I think they should have stricter laws. I don't think you can have massive, because it's longer but narrower. I don't understand how that can change so much.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's something that's a bit of a bugbear, and I hate it, but it's Geelong want to keep their ground, so what do you do?
No, but I think Chris makes a good point. That I think that the advantage comes from your fans having 60-70% more people there than the opposition. That's where your advantage comes from. It doesn't come from the fact that you've shaped it like a donut. Do you know what I mean? Like Carlton just make a ground, then we'll have it that way. So gravity is pushing the ball in one direction, but we can only play left to right. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm with you. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see it. And finally, Hayes to play. I love Noons. I think Noons is the sexiest individual. Honestly, he's. I've sat next to Noons, and I can confirm he's about 0.2% body fat. But yeah, I'd have Hayes in over him because I think he's got a bit of a corky.
Yep. Hayes in. Love it. I'd love to see it.
Do you know what I mean? Well, that is all we've got time for. Much love, everyone. Thank you for the donations, the great questions, the great comments, the love and support. Me and Fazz love it. We'll be back next week. So if you've got any questions you want, head on to Twitter, What is your Twitter handle, Fazz?
It's at West Ham Fazz. So yeah, at West_Ham_Fazz. Follow me, but be kind.
Do you know what I mean? Follow him and just send him abuse. He'll give you it back. Just be careful.
Yeah.
He's not like me. He hasn't built a public reputation, so he's not as nice yet. I'm Unpopular, so get your questions in. We'll put a post up probably over the weekend for the show so you can get some pre-ones in. Until next time, though, go Blues. Love you all.
See you guys. Thank you.
Good night.